Hey, world history folks. We are moving forward in Unit 10, 10.2, Imperialism. So yesterday we introduced some of the concepts for what imperialism looks like and some of the motivations for why Europe was being so imperialistic. Today we're going to look at one of the best examples of European imperialism, what happened in Africa. King Leopold of Belgium refers to it as the magnificent African cake. And notice there's King Leopold and some gentlemen of Europe sitting to slice up Africa. Why were they doing that? Well, they wanted all those natural resources and raw materials. They decided that it was theirs for the taking. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this dissection, and your goal is to produce a pie graph that would show the percentage of African land controlled by the various European powers during the age of imperialism. Now, this is a multi-step process. You're going to need some notebook paper to create a chart. In your outline, you've got a map of Africa on one of your pages that you're going to be using. And we're going to talk through this process. It takes a little bit of time, but we'll work through it together. So with that being said, let's look at our first step here, the recognition of what happened in Africa. Okay, what's the first thing you notice when you look at this map? When your eyes close your eyes, you see colors. Right? Let's use the key. What do the colors stand for? Okay, how many colors are there? Okay, there are 7 colors listed in this key. Now there's actually an 8th color. Anybody figure out why there's an 8th color? Look over in the east, northeast side. You see Ethiopia. Notice that Ethiopia has none of the colors listed in the key. Okay, so that gives us a little bit of clue what's going on here. Every color in the key represents a European country. And so everywhere you see that color, that means that Europe colonized or took that slice of cake. But notice Ethiopia has none of those colors. So what does that mean for Ethiopia? Well, it means that they could not be colonized. There's actually one other place in Africa that was uncolonized by Europe. See if you can find it. I'll give you a second. Hint, it has to do with America. If you look in the northwest corner, you see Liberia. Liberia was a colony in Africa that was established by the United States as a home for people who wanted to leave the United States after the Civil War, after slavery had ended. But those were the only 2 places, Ethiopia and Liberia, that remained outside of the control of European countries. So let's look at this map for just a second. So based on what you see, what countries would you say were the most successful colonizers of African land? You'd probably recognize pretty quickly that that pink and that orange seem to stand out. And if you look a little closer, you could see that pink is France and orange is Britain, which makes sense when we've talked about Britain and their empire, which the sun never sets upon. So they're going to have some of the biggest land, but we want to find out what percentage of land all of these European countries control. What does Portugal control? What does Italy control? Okay, now in order to do this, we're going to have to do a tricky process, spatial orienteering, moving things kind of in your mind. So let's go to our next page here. The first thing you're going to need to do on your map is you're going to need to recognize kind of what I've started doing here. You don't need to draw these lines, but you need to recognize that the map that you have, you need to be able to see where each color ends or where each color begins. Notice right here I have this green section right here. So if we go back to our other map, that's Ethiopia, independent Ethiopia. And then when I come over here, notice this is purple and this is purple. Okay, so when we go back to the map, we see that's Libya and that's Italian Somaliland. So both Italian lands. You can see this big section right in the southern part of Africa. Okay, that's British. And then when we go here, this section in the north, all of those countries. Go back over here, all of those countries are British. So you're going to need to have that mindset as you go through this next process. And you can just pull up this part of the YouTube video and push pause right here and see the colors when you need to. So what's next? Well, in order to find out the percentage of land owned by each of these European countries, what's the first thing we need to find? How do I know the percentage of land? I can't get a percentage just by looking at this. I can say, oh, that's 22%, or that's 18%. If I want to know the percentage of something, I need to know what? Okay, some of you are on track here. You need to know area. I need to know the area of land that was controlled by the French and the area of land that was controlled by the British and all of these European countries. Well, what's the formula for area? It's a relatively simple geometric formula. Length times width equals area. Well, length and width is easy if I'm measuring a rectangle or square. You know, I could do this map. I could give you a length and a width of this square right here. But look at Madagascar. Madagascar. There's too many oblong edges. It's not a square. There's not right angles. Look over here at Ethiopia. Is that a square? Or Libya? So in order for us to figure out how to get a length and a width, we're going to go through kind of a tricky process. Now you're going to need a pencil for this, and something you can erase with. Do not attempt this in pen. Okay, and let's go to our next page here, and I'll show you what we're talking about. All right in the middle, the little black dotted land right there, this is Belgian Congo. Let me go back and show it to you in the map. There it is, Belgian Congo. So this was, King Leopold was from Belgium. This was the slice he took. Lots and lots of natural resources there, right on the river. And notice he just carved out just a little bit of ocean access so we can get all these goods down the Congo River and back up to Europe to sell. Pretty smart border when you think about it. All right, so how do I get a length and a width of this oblong shape? It's not a square, it's not a rectangle. Well, I have here some different opportunities for what we're going to talk about. So let's start with this green, somewhat rectangle. Now, don't be hating on my straight edges. It's hard to draw with these little things, but just imagine these are straight edges. Okay, so I put this rectangle, and notice it goes around all of the Belgian Congo. And so now that I have straight sides, could I get a length and a width by measuring these? Well, the answer is yes. But would it give me an accurate representation of Belgian Congo? Like, is this the real length and width for this land? Well, no, because we have a problem. Notice that there's land inside the Belgian Congo right here that's not inside the box. It's not being measured. And notice, look at all this space right here that we're actually counting as part of Belgian Congo, but it's not Belgian Congo. So if we tried to get an area here, our number would be too big or too small? It would be too big. So we can try again, except let's use a different box. So let's try this blue one. All right, now we've made sure that we don't have too much land, because look, we got all this space that's Belgian Congo. So I'm going to color it all in blue. Okay, see this part right here that's Belgian Congo, and this part right here, and this part right here, that's all part of their colony. But notice it's not inside the box, so it's not going to be measured as part of the length and width and area of the Belgian Congo. So this box is too small. It's like Goldilocks, right? This porridge is too hot. This porridge is too cold. All right, so let's try the red one. Okay, now a little bit better. Notice I've got some land outside the box that belongs to Belgian Congo, and I've got some space inside the box that does not belong to Belgian Congo. The goal is to make those equal. And then my length and my width will give me a more accurate, not perfect, but a more accurate representation. I think what I'm looking at here, though, is maybe too much. See the space here, here, and here? Would all of that space that you see on the outside of the box, would that cram in here? Maybe not. So let's try one more. Whoops, wrong one. That's the map. We don't want to move that either. Okay. Let's try this box. Holy smokes. Let's try this box. All right. Now, notice what we have. What we see is there's a certain amount of space outside the yellow square. But there's also a certain amount of space inside the yellow square. And what you have to do is to draw rectangles and squares that has, as close as possible, an equal amount of land outside the square that belongs to that colony as space inside the square that does not. Okay, let me show you another one. Okay, and this is, some of y'all will get it right away. Sometimes it takes a second. All right, all this land right here. Notice this is a series of colonies. Let me go back to the map. Okay. See, this is all a series of British land. Okay, you got Rhodesia, Nyasaland, Bechuanaland, Union of South Africa, Basutoland, Swaziland. So here's all British colonies. Well, we don't have to draw one box or one rectangle for each of those. You can lump all those together and draw one for them all at the same time. So let's try blue here. All right. Blue shows that I've got some land on the outside and space on the inside. That looks actually pretty good. Maybe not quite enough space on the inside. Maybe there's too much land outside. Let's try the red one. Let's see what happens when we do red. Too big, right? See all this space right here that's inside? This space right here that's inside? Space, space. There's not enough land that belongs to these British colonies outside the rectangle that are equal inside the rectangle. So let's see what happens with the green one. Oh, definitely too small. Let's see if I can even move it over. Like, you've got this space, and this land, and this land, and this. All of this land outside is too much to fit. So let's go back to blue. Okay. Now, here's why you got to need to use an eraser. So if I was to draw one of these, okay, let's grab my little marker here. Let's go yellow. Okay, so if I'm drawing this, I'm going to try and draw straight edges. Draw lightly with your pencil. All right, so when I drew this line right here, notice I intentionally left a space right in here that was not part of the British colonies. But I also cut off some space here that is. And so I'm thinking, all right, maybe they could be about the same size. And notice I'm leaving some space here at the bottom that I know is not part of these British colonies. Now I'm going to have to cut this pretty tight. All right, so let's look. I've got some land outside here and here, a little bit here and a little bit here. Is all of that land outside the rectangle approximately equal to the space, look here, and look here, inside the rectangle? If that's the case, then I've drawn a good box. All right, we're going to do one more. Okay, let's take a look at Madahuvar. Madagascar, Madahuvar. All right, here it is. So down here belongs to France. So I got my little red box here. That's a little too big, yes. See, there's all this space inside my rectangle that is not part of Madagascar. So if I measured my length and my width, my number would be too large. My area would be too big. All right, so let's get rid of red. Let's try green. Let's not move. Oh boy. All right. All right, now green's got a problem. Green's too small. Look, there's land outside that belongs to Madagascar, land outside the rectangle that belongs to Madagascar, but there's not enough empty space inside to balance that out. So green's not going to get it done. Let's take a look at blue. Okay, maybe a little bit better. Notice I've got a little bit of space inside and a little bit of land outside. So that's the process, and you're going to be doing this over and over again. You're using pencil. You're going to be going back and forth between this map to know what you're measuring in terms of the colony, and then to this map so you can actually do your measurements, create your boxes. All right, well now we've created a way to get a length and the width. Well, how do we actually get the length and the width? Well, we need to use a scale. So on your map, okay, the paper on in your outline, you're going to want to draw a line about 1 inch long. Okay, one end of it is going to be 0 miles, in the middle is 500, and the other end is 1,000. That's going to be our approximate scale. Now that's not totally accurate, but that'll work for what we're doing. And what you're going to do is put that scale, put it on a little scratch piece of paper, post-it note, so that you can pick it up and move it. Because you're going to come up here and you're going to hold it next to your box right here. So now look, if this black line, my scale, is 1,000 miles long, okay? Well, notice it doesn't go all the way across Libya here. So maybe it goes about 1,000 and then, I don't know, 200 extra miles. So I would want to write 1,200 in, okay, here's another step we need to talk about. You need to create a chart. Create a chart that names these colonies, leaves a space for length, space for width, and a space for area. So we're working on Libya right now. So we said it'd be about 1,200, the length. All right, well, let's go back. Now I need to take my scale, whoops. I'm going to turn it here. And oh, it's right about 1,000 miles. Okay, so I would go back to my chart. But you're going to show me this chart at some point. So save your work. Sound like a math teacher. So you got 1,200 is the length, 1,000 is the width. You multiply those, and you'll get an area for Libya. Okay, so let me go back this one more time. Oops, sorry, too far. We also need to do this for Madagascar, for the hoo-ha. All right, so we've got our box there. Turn my scale a little bit. All right, so it's a little bit more than 1,000 miles. So again, maybe 1,100. Don't keep it in the 1,100, 1,150, 1,200, 1,250. It's probably good numbers to use. And then I need to turn it again. Figure out what my width is. It's definitely not halfway, maybe 400. So I would go back to my chart. We said it was maybe 1,100 long and 400 wide. And I would multiply those together. And that would give me my area for Madagascar. And you're going to need to do that for every piece of land that you see in Africa. Now again, you can lump some together. You could do this whole set of British together. You just got to label it in the chart. You could do all this French together. You just call it French West Africa. If in your mind you don't want to put British Somaliland, draw a little box here. You just want to lump it in over here with this section, or Togo. Take Togo and just lay it over here next to Cameroon. And the more your mind can move this around, the better this will be. And that's actually a very highly intelligent skill, to be able to move things in your mind, spatial orienteering. So once you've created and filled out a chart for all of the colonies of Africa, now you need to figure out the percentage. That's relatively easy. So first thing we've got to do, we've got to add up all our areas together. So you should have a total area for everything that the British owned, and a total area for everything the French owned, and a total area for all the things the Spanish owned. So you should have 8, because we're going to include independent Ethiopia and Liberia. You should have 8 total areas. And then you're going to need to create this mathematical formula 8 times. All right, well, what information will we know at the end of this? Well, you should have a total British area. We just found it and wrote it in this chart. By taking everything that we found lengths and widths for, areas for, and adding all the British together, we get a total area. Okay, well, if I get 8 total areas, then I should also be able to get a total Africa area. Think about how you would get that. You've got 8 individual areas and you add them up, you get the total area. Now, what am I trying to find? Well, I want to know the percentage of every European country. This in my formula, this would be X. And I want to know what percentage of that land was British. I know how much it was. It's going to be so and so many thousands of miles. And I also know that total percent is 100, just like total Africa area, total percent is 100. And then if I cross multiply with what I know and divide, you should be able to get a percentage. And you're going to do this 8 times. And once you've done this, you're going to want to put in not just their area, but you're going to want to put in their percentage. Oops. So you should be able to have this chart that will show the percentage for every African country and how much of it was controlled by Europe. Then you need to go to a program. You can do this with any Microsoft program, or you could draw it with paper and get yourself a compass and draw your circle and protractor and create your pie graph with a color-coded key. Okay, so we're going to be working on this not only today, but we're going to be doing this a second day after the weekend. And so you're going to have some time to do all this. So you don't have to do all this in one day. But we are working through this process. You can check with me on Remind with questions, etc. Okay, look forward to hearing and seeing what you guys get on the African cake.